Okay, so I think I've done like a manager story before about where I literally did the devil's tango with my manager, and you guys absolutely destroyed it. And I think it was one of the very first story times I ever told on this channel. But little do you guys know, there has been another occasion. Actually, to be honest, there's only 3 occasions, but this is the second one. If you guys do want to hear the other one, I guess you guys have to click that like button and subscribe. And also, if you guys want to, make sure you guys follow the Twitch and come to the Discord server to actually come talk to us and hang out. It'll be awesome to talk to you guys. And also, maybe I can give you guys some insights on all the devil's tango I've been doing recently. Now, let's get straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story actually takes place back when I worked at a grocery store. Yes, I said it, a literal grocery store. Now, obviously, this was kind of like back in high school. So, you know, at this time and age, like either I was working at a restaurant, but this was the first time I actually wanted to go into like a retail kind of thing. But to be honest, any actual like clothing store I've been to, they all said no to me basically because I didn't have the resume, since all my resumes were basically me being in the kitchen. But honestly, I just decided to go to a grocery store because my mom thought it would be a cool idea to like get more experience in a way, even though I just ended up being a YouTuber at the end of it. But you know, win-win scenario. But anyways, I remember I worked at this basic grocery store that, you know, had a lot of young people working there. And honestly, like by young, I mean basically like a lot of people my age. And when you guys get a job, you guys will automatically notice this, but every workplace you guys actually like go into, or you start working a new job, you guys will realize who's friends with who to stay away from, who to take orders from. It's kind of like high school, but like in a more financial way. And I say financial way because you're making money. Unlike school, you're getting a piece of paper. But anyways, going on with the story, I remember there was a certain day, it was on a Friday night, and I remember I was stocking shelves in the morning. I took a morning shift that time because for some reason the manager wanted to talk to me like later on throughout the day, and I just didn't know why. But anyways, I was working and I was putting stuff away, and I remember I was going down the candy aisle and I was putting candy away because that's where the candy went, obviously. But as I was putting candy away, I remember one of the little Asian girls that worked at like the grocery store walked up to me, and everyone liked this little Asian girl for some reason. Like she was really nice, she was really kind, and she was a genuine person. But at the same time, she was like a goody two shoes, but like not everyone was a fan of her because apparently she was a snake. I don't know. To be honest, I didn't care enough. Like I said, I was putting candy away, and when she walked up to me, she said, "So apparently word around is that you're getting a promotion soon." I remember looking at her and I'm like, I've only been here for 2 months. How am I getting a promotion? And then she said, well, apparently one of the managers is really like enjoying how you do work and really likes you, and I think she wants to promote you. And when she said I realized what manager it was. Apparently there was a girl night manager who was like really, how do I put this? Basically one of those people that act like they're still in high school, even though they're fully graduated, but still can't get out of that high school mindset. And obviously for me, I didn't care enough, to be honest, because let's be real here, when I go to work or when I do any sort of work in general, I kind of just put my head down and just focus on it. But when she told me it was like a promotional kind of thing, I kind of got excited. I'm not gonna lie, because obviously promotion equals more money equals my pocket, and more money equals video games, and video games is where I like. So obviously then I asked her, oh, like did like something happen? Like did I do something right? Like I don't know, like what do you mean by that? Because obviously I didn't understand what was going on at the moment when she was telling me I was gonna get a promotion. But then she said, I don't know, just go to her office and see what she wants. So obviously I finished putting the candy away and I went up to the office where she was basically sitting at all day. Because I'm not gonna lie, the managers of the grocery store, they either go out, count like what's in stock, and then they just go back upstairs and sit for like hours just talking about how sad their life is because they work at a grocery store. But as I headed up the elevator and I walked into the office she was in, I remember she had like 2 other people in there. And when she saw me, I'm not joking when I say this, she smiled like I've never seen before. So either this was gonna be a really good promotion, or I was about to, you know, do the devil's tango. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Not yet, anyway. But going on, I remember she ended up clearing out the room. And when she cleared out the room, she closed the door and said, all right, Bubba, so I actually need to talk to you about something very special you can do for this company. And when she said that, I kind of got like this vibe that I was gonna become a manager for some reason. But then she ended up saying, you're gonna be working the graveyard shift. Wait, what? Yeah, she wanted me to literally work the graveyard shift. Reminder, I was in high school at the time. So this is really, really off-putting because obviously that ruins the sleep schedule. And also, get your good night's sleep because seriously, you could die from not sleeping. Unless you're grinding on YouTube, then don't sleep. Keep the grind up. But anyways, like I was saying though, so basically, when she told me she wanted me to work the graveyard shift, I kind of had to worry because I told her like, oh, like I'm in school. I don't know if I can do it. Like, you know, like I don't know if it's a good idea. But then she went on to say, oh, you'll be making $2 more than your normal wage. And when she said $2 more, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of happy about it. Like, let's be real here, guys. Making money nowadays is absolutely just a pain in the butt. So obviously, I'm gonna take it. Even though I gotta sacrifice, like, let's see, 8 hours of sleep. I don't think it's a total loss for $2 extra every hour. Like, it's not bad. But then I ended up, you know, signing the piece of paper saying I'll do the graveyard shift, and she gave me the weekends to do the graveyard shift, so my sleep schedule in school wouldn't be so messed up. But once I signed the paper, I remember she put her phone on the table, and it was on Snapchat, and she told me, hey, like, I'm gonna like need your Snapchat to like give you your schedule, by the way. I'll just send it to you once I get it set up. So you're not gonna email me it, is what I asked her afterwards. But she said, no, like, we prefer to like be direct contact with just, you know, Snapchat or like Instagram. I just think it's a lot more like convenient, and also like knowing like, you know, we're like teenagers. She was 27. Knowing like teenagers, I think it would just work out. Okay, yeah, well, sure, whatever. So I remember I ended up giving her my Snapchat, funny enough. I remember going back down, and I was gonna like, you know, clock out for my shift, and when I did, the Asian girl walked back up to me. She said, hey, did you know like the manager like is actually like very interested in you for some reason? And I'm like, oh yeah, like you're right, like she gave me a promotion. But then she told me, no, like she's actually like really interested in you. This is where I started to worry. If you guys didn't see the first story time of me doing my manager, obviously you guys would understand, like, you know, I've been down this path, except last time was in a restaurant, this time it's in a grocery store. But like I was saying though, like it was kind of just like winging it. But anyways, I kind of just chose to ignore it, and I went home. When I went home, she ended up sending me a schedule. I worked at a Saturday night, and I went to work that night. When I got there, it was super dark out, and when I entered the store, nobody was there. Like, it was scary how quiet a grocery store can be when there's nobody there. Like, not even music is playing. Like, it's silent, dead silent. But at the same time, the lights were still on. It was actually pretty cool. And when I walked through the door and, you know, I went upstairs and stuff, and I went to go put my bag away, I saw the manager. When she saw me, she walked up to me and said, are you ready for your first shift? Obviously, I said, yeah, because hell, what else am I going to do at like 12 at night in a grocery store? So she gave me the basic rundown of what to do, what things to put away. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of liked it. She let me put on my headphones, listen to some Juice WRLD, and I basically just jammed out and put stuff away. And honestly, it goes bumping hard when you're listening to Lucid Dreams, putting stuff away 12 at night at a grocery store. I don't know. It's just a different vibe. Trust me, if you guys ever do it, comment under this video and tell me how you liked it. Like, honestly, like, I don't know. It was just a vibe. Anyways, as I was putting things away, I remember the night manager ended up like coming up beside me, and she was also putting things away with me. But then she was talking to me as I was like listening to Juice WRLD, and I didn't realize it till like halfway through her sentence. So I remember I took out my headphones and I was like, oh, like, what's up? She said, did you not just hear like what I just said? And I said, no, like, I didn't hear you. Sorry. Like, I was listening to Juice WRLD. And then she told me, oh, like, I like Juice WRLD too. Like, he's actually so awesome. Rip Juice, by the way. I forgot to mention that in this video. But going on, she ended up saying, oh, well, while you weren't listening, I guess I was just complimenting you and how cute you looked. Bruh, you're telling me my manager called me cute 12 at night when I'm looking busted as hell, and she thinks me in sweatpants is cute? Like, don't get me wrong, they come off easy, but like, okay, anyways. So we ended up just talking about basic outfits, and we're just talking about, you know, school. At least I was talking about school. She was talking about how she still lives with her mom, and so on and so forth. And then what ended up happening afterwards was pretty awkward. And I say pretty twice because it was awkward. As we were putting things away, she kind of like started like going out of things in my cart, and she put her hand in my cart when I put my hand in there, and we kind of like touched hands. Now, usually that wouldn't be a big deal, but then she like went from touching my hand to like going up my arm and grabbing my shoulder, and then she ended up making out with me in the middle of the grocery store. When she did that, I remember she literally looked at me and she's like, come with me. She grabbed me by my hand. We went to the elevator, and when we got into the elevator, she like pressed a button as the door closed that made the whole elevator just stop. And then I'm not gonna lie to you guys, that's when we ended up doing the devil's tango. So that went on for, I want to say like 2 hours of our night. And I remember the phone rang. It was like 2 a.m. The phone rang for some reason. It was one of the delivery guys that delivered things at night, apparently. And she like basically got all her clothes on, and she was like saying like, oh, like, we're on the way right now. And we went down, and I'm not gonna lie, her hair was all messed up. My hair was all messed up. Like, we were going at it in the elevator for like I said, 2 hours almost. So it was pretty busted. And then afterwards, I remember she looked at me and she just kept winking at me as like we were getting the order in. And then I remember how weird I felt, but honestly, like, it wasn't that bad. And let's just say, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I ended up quitting, I want to say a month after, because, you know, even though she was way older than me, I'm not gonna lie, she was too much to handle sometimes. And sometimes you need to draw your boundaries. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for the story. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, thank you guys for all the love and support. Make sure you guys join the Discord server, come hang out, and just be awesome. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. I remember it was just me and her at the office, and I remember she walked up to me and said, Baba, do you need help with that paperwork? As she slowly grabs my thigh, I knew it was time. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing, but I gotta gotta say, really weird story. So this story all takes place right after high school, and this was my grade 12 year. Now in grade 12, I remember one thing I really wanted to do was work in a normal space, meaning that I didn't want to do like, you know, any restaurant work or any other sort of work, but I kind of wanted to have a work where I would just have to sit down and just kind of just work on a computer, kind of like what I do now as a YouTuber. But obviously it wasn't easy to come by. I remember I ended up getting some cell phone service job where basically I would sit down and do customer support at this office area. That was a really cool place. I'm not going to say which company it was because I do not want to get in serious legal trouble with them, but you guys can comment down below and take a wild guess of which one. Going on from there, I remember basically when I went to apply there, it was a pretty good workspace. I remember it was basically everything I wanted, where it was just little cubicles, everyone working in offices, and just being on the phone 80% of the time. And me, I remember when I walked in there, I instantly got an interview because they were instantly hiring people since it was such a big company, and I sat down with this woman. Now this woman, she was like not actually the manager of the place, but she was like someone that did the interviews. And I remember when I sat down with her in a really nice suit, she looked at me and said, "Oh, so you just graduated high school, I see on your resume." Yeah, you know, I'm just trying to, you know, get a cool job, I guess, and I always wanted to kind of work in an office. "Oh, okay, that's good. Wow, you have a really good voice, by the way." Thank you. Instantly at that moment when she flirted with me saying that I had a really nice voice, I found this very odd, but at the same time, I guess many people find my voice, well, I guess better than most, which is pretty amazing, and thank you for everyone that likes my voice. But going on with the story, I remember the interview went on, but every time she saw something on my resume, she planned to compliment me about it. Like, for example, she saw that I worked at a restaurant and she said, "Oh, so you must have like really good hands, don't you, to cook some food?" Honestly, it was super awkward and I didn't know what to say nor what to do. I kind of just nodded my head and agreed. And I remember after the interview was over, I ended up basically standing up and walking away down this hallway that led to the exit. And as I was walking to the exit, out of nowhere, this girl runs to me and sprints over to me saying, "Oh, Bubba, I just want to say you did get hired. Are you cool to start Monday?" I remember I looked at her and smiled and I'm like, "Yeah, I can work Monday." "Okay, cool. Here's my number and yeah, good luck." And at that point, I knew I got the job. Now, number one piece of advice I'm going to give you guys, don't poop where you eat. Meaning that if you guys work at a workplace, don't go for a girl or a guy that works with you, because, well, at that point, if something happens, like for example, you guys break up or things get really awkward, you're gonna have to see it every day at work. And well, me, that kind of became the case. But before that happens, I remember on Monday when I went for my first day of work, I went in there and I sat down and I basically, you know, wore a nice suit and I basically like started working on this computer. And as I was sitting there, I remember I didn't really know how to use the computer or actually start work because it was my first day. So I'm just sitting at this computer desk, totally confused on what in the world am I supposed to do. I started looking around really cutely and I kind of just started wondering, how do I start this? And out of nowhere, there was a guy that saw me and he was like sitting across from me and he looked at me and said, "Yo, bro, is this your first day at the job?" Yeah. How do you know?" "Nothing. It's just very noticeable when someone starts the first day. Here, you might need help. Just call your manager up." "I never actually met my manager yet." "Oh, you didn't? Well, just call up the person that interviewed you." So at that moment, I remember I ended up grabbing my phone and I called the girl that hired me in the first, and when she answered the phone, instantly she said, "Oh, I was wondering when you were gonna call me for the job." Yeah, for the job, silly. Are you at the office already?" Yeah, I'm just waiting right now. I don't really know what to do. Can you help me out?" "I'll be there in 2 minutes. I'm just in my office." 2 minutes go by and she shows up, and instantly at that moment, she starts like, you know, basically showing me what to do at the office and how I'm supposed to answer calls and all this stuff that cell phone places usually do. And I remember the whole time when she was showing me how to do things, she would kind of like get really close to me to the point where she would kind of like grab my arm and in a way also like, I don't know, just kind of get too touchy with me as we were just both sitting in this office space. I found this really weird and I kind of got really weirded out and I'm like, "Yo, is everything okay? Like, are you good?" Yeah, I'm good. Are you good? Do you understand everything?" No, yeah, I do understand everything. I'm just, you know, curious." Okay, cool. I'm just gonna start work then." She got up and left afterwards, and that's when I started working. Now, one thing I'm gonna say to you guys is that I'm a workaholic, meaning that I like to work. And me, I would work so much to the point where I'm not joking, I would always do more than I usually should have. Actually, the first week of me working there, I think I was basically helping more customers and doing way more than anyone else at the office. And a lot of people started recognizing that. Obviously, people started not liking me because of this, but at the same time though, it led to one girl specifically that liked me a lot and always came up to me during the week. And that was the girl that hired me. She always walked up to me, got really close to me, and she always kept flirting with me. And it got to a point where one day she actually ended up putting her finger on my lips and shushing me because apparently I was talking to too many customers customers? I have really no idea. It was super awkward how she would do this, and a lot of people in the office started noticing this as well. And it got to a point where I remember one time the guy that was sitting across from me looks at me and says, "You're a interviewer, the person that hired you. She's really into you, eh?" Yeah, I guess she likes me, I guess. I don't know. I guess I'm a good worker. Nah, dude, everyone was once a good worker, but for you, she gets really close to you. Something tells me she likes you a lot. Okay, cool. At this moment, I kind of understood what he was saying, but at the same time, once again, I had a golden rule where I would not poop where I eat. So I kind of like kept my distance until Friday came along. I remember it was the day Friday, and it was a Friday night, and basically I was working the late shift, and I was working such a late shift to the point where, I'm not gonna lie, I actually ended up staying in the office longer than like most people. It got to the point where actually everyone went home before me, and it was super late, and I thought I got to a point where I was alone at the office because I heard no noises when I was done talking to customers. And as I'm just sitting there really weirdly, just kind of like figuring out what I should do, and you know, if I should keep working or call it a day, out of nowhere, I ended up hearing someone say, "Bubba, you're still here?" Yeah. I was just, you know, finishing up some work, I guess. Why are you here? Oh, I always do the late shift, silly. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, she was definitely lying when she said that, because I've never seen her work a late night shift in my life. But then afterwards, I say, "Oh, okay, well, cool. It's good to know I'm not alone." "Yeah, no, I agree. It's good that you're here." Okay, cool. At this moment, I didn't really know what to say because once again, it was a really awkward moment for me. But then she ends up getting up and leaving. And I remember I was actually just gonna get ready to go home. So I remember I started kind of packing my bag that I had, and I put my like previous lunch that I had earlier in there, and I started like putting everything away. And then that's when it happened. She ends up walking down to my office, and she ends up looking at me saying, "Bubba, I need to tell you something." And then afterwards, she ended up putting her hand on my thigh and sitting on my lap and started making out with me. My mind was blown when she did this, and I was like, what is going on? And out of nowhere, I am not joking, we ended up basically clearing everything off the desk except the computer monitor, obviously, and me and her, we ended up doing the Devil's Tango at the office. I am not joking. It was so crazy. It was like a movie. It was literally like a movie scene. Like, I was so in shock, and I remember I looked at her and said, "Are you sure we should be doing this right now? Just don't worry about it, silly." And we keep going. This happens for like, I want to say like the next hour and a half. And reminder, I didn't even get to clock out yet. So these hours that I was doing the Devil's Tango, I was basically getting paid for, which is insane to me. Because I remember as me and her were still doing it, out of nowhere, we ended up finding a late night janitor walking around the corner, and he saw us both and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing over there?" I remember me and her, we instantly just like got off each other, and we started putting on our clothes as fast as we could. And I looked at the janitor saying, "Oh, nothing, just late night stuff." "Okay, well, you and your work wife gotta go home. It's too late for you guys to be here still." Okay, yeah, no, we're heading home right now," is what I said afterwards. I was so embarrassed, and I remember as I was walking to my car, the janitor kept watching us to make sure we actually went home. But as I was about to start my car, out of nowhere, I see the girl that did the Devil's Tango with me at the office looked at me and said, "Bubba, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if it's gonna be easy for us to work here after that." "Well, I don't know, just pretend that never happened, I guess." And that's when I drove off. And what happened the next day, I gotta say, really ruined everything for me. Because I remember the next day I went to work and everyone was there. It was a full shift, but everyone was whispering and everything. And every time I saw this girl that, you know, I did the Devil's Tango with yesterday come around me, she would look at me and start like biting her lips in a really weird way. And at that point, I'm not gonna lie to you, everyone in the office knew what happened, but I didn't know how they knew until out of nowhere, the actual manager that I actually never got to meet ends up walking up to me, and he says, "Hey, Bubba, can I speak to you for a second in my office?" Yeah, sure. Me and him, we end up going to his office, and when we sat down together, he says, "So we caught this on the security tapes last night. I don't know what to say or what to explain to you, but I'm sorry, we're gonna have to let you go." Yeah, I got fired. After that moment, I got really upset, but I will say, if you guys want this happen to you, then just follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. When I got inside this billionaire's limo, out of nowhere, I ended up sitting inside saying, "Wait, so what am I doing here, sir?" "Well, you see, Bubba, I have an offer for you that you can't refuse. If you're smart like me, you'll definitely take up this offer." And then out of nowhere, he ends up pulling out a briefcase. And when he opened it, it was full of cash. And he told me, "For every week you date my daughter, I'll give you $1,000. And I was so in shock that this billionaire was basically hiring me to date his own daughter. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story all takes place back when I was in grade 12. Now, grade 12 is the final year of high school, and during the final years of high school, a lot of people end up getting really riled up and kind of, well, insane, because no one knows in their grade 12 year what they really want to be, unless your parents, you know, trained you to say what you want to be and you stuck through it throughout all of school. But honestly, for me, for example, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was in grade 12. So me being the really dumb guy I was, I'm not gonna lie, the only things I really focused on was doing the devil's tango. And then on top of that, kind of just focused on school to make sure I graduated at least, because if I'm not gonna figure out my future, I might as well just still at least graduate with good numbers. And I remember one day when I was sitting down in the cafeteria finishing up some math homework that I had, and then one of my buddies ends up coming up sitting in front of me saying, yo, bro, do you have a date to the Halloween dance? Huh? Oh, shoot. I forgot that was coming up. Wait, so you don't have a date yet? No, why? Well, I know one chick that's interested and she's planning on asking you like later at lunch. Personally, in my opinion, I'd say no because she's kind of ugly, but you do you, bro. And he ended up standing up and walking away. Now, I was happy that he told me that someone was going to ask me later on the day, so it wouldn't be a crazy surprise, but at the same time, knowing that it's going to be from an ugly girl, well, I'm not going to lie, I was not interested. I know that sounds really mean, but you guys got to understand, like, I had a pretty good reputation back in high school where I actually did the devil's tango with like not so ugly chicks. So knowing that, like, you know, this girl wanted to ask me, as mean as it sounds, I was never gonna do it. But anyway, the day goes on, and I remember I go to all my classes and stuff, and then around lunchtime, I ended up walking out of my biology class, and out of nowhere, a girl walks up to me. Now, the girl that walks up to me, I've actually known her before. She was like one of my classmates that were in my class the semester before. So me seeing this girl, I remember I was like, oh, hey, like, what's up? Oh, Baba, I was just wondering, can I talk to you for a second? Yeah, sure. What do you need to talk about? I remember she ends up grabbing my wrist, and she ends up pulling me around to the corner of the hallway, and that's when I realized she ended up handing me a note saying, will you go to the Halloween dance with me? I remember I read that, and I looked at her, and I kind of actually ended up turning her down. I told her, oh, to be honest, like, I'm not really 100% sure if I'm going, and like, I gotta be real. I think someone's already planning on asking me, and I kind of promised them I would earlier this year. So like, I'm not trying to be mean, but like, I'm not interested. At that moment, she ends up looking at me, and she looked really sad. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, her eyes were opened wide, and I swear I saw almost a tear. But she ended up basically running away from me, and at that moment, I kind of just stood there thinking, am I a jerk for doing that? I don't really know. But the story gets a lot more intense because what ends up happening next actually changes everything. Because I remember later on the school day, I was expecting girls to walk up to me telling me how bad of a person I was, because the word gets around quick when someone gets denied in my school. But instead of the word going out, I remember during my physical education class, I was just doing a lap around the school because we were doing like this like running unit. I don't really know why. It just made no sense to me. But as we were running around, I ended up hearing the announcements, and they literally ended up saying, can Baba come down to the office? Thank you. At that moment, I was worried about why I was getting called down to the office. I don't know if it was because the rumor got out too much, or I don't know, maybe I got in trouble for something that I actually did. I have no idea. So when I headed down to the office, I remember I went up to the front counter and said, hey, I got called down to the office. Oh yeah, the phone's for you over there. Oh, okay. And I ended up going to the phone, and when I picked it up, I ended up hearing it was some guy's voice. I ended up saying, hello, who is this? Hi, are you Bubba? Yeah, what's up? What are your plans after school? I was just planning on going home. Why? Did you drive or walk to school today? I drove. Wait, I'm sorry, who is this? Well, I'm gonna be meeting up with you after school. Just expect me, okay? Stand by your car when you're there. Okay, sure, I guess. And I ended up hanging up the phone. The front desk lady ended up looking at me saying, are you done with the phone now? You can go back to class. And that's what I did. As I was walking back to class, I was questioning what in the world happened, and it got to the point where one of my buddies ended up actually seeing me in the hallway and ran up to me. He ran up to me and said, yo, Bubba, was that about the girl? Did she start a rumor about you? Are you in trouble? Huh? No, just some weird guy called me. I don't know who it was, but I guess like they're meeting me after school. What? Bro, that's so weird. And he ended up basically walking away as well. At this moment, I had really no idea what was going on, and I was worried. But what ended up happening next honestly changed everything. Because I remember when the final bell for our school rang and I started heading to my locker to get my things, I noticed that the girl that ended up asking me to the dance was basically staring at me down the hallway. I didn't know why, and I kind of looked at her and waved, and she just ended up running away. I really didn't understand what was going on, and that day made me question everything. But once I walked up to my car and I basically kind of stood there for like 2 minutes on my phone, I ended up thinking to myself, bro, what am I doing? It's just some random prank call maybe or something. You know what? I'm just gonna go home. And right as I opened the car door to my own car, out of nowhere, a limo, a full-on limousine pops up in front of my vehicle and says, are you Bubba? Yeah? Get in the car, would you? I remember I started to worry, but it was a limo, and kidnappers don't use limos, right? So I ended up getting inside, and when I got in there, I realized that it was just some guy in a really nice suit wearing a Rolex. When I saw this guy, I was like, wait, are you the guy who called me earlier? Huh? Oh, yeah, that was me. I'm here calling you regarding a job opportunity, you can call it. A job opportunity? Wait, why? I'm still in high school. Oh, that's not the point. You see, I need you to do me a massive favor. Okay, what's the favor? And at this moment, he ends up pulling out a briefcase that was right beside him, and he ended up putting it right in front of me on the chair we were sitting at. And he said to me, if you will take my daughter to the Halloween Halloween dance. I will pay you. And he ended up opening up the briefcase, and there was loads of money inside. And that's when he finished his sentence and said, $1,000 every week. At this moment, I started to worry. I looked at him and said, so you want me to date your daughter for $1,000 a week? Yes, but remember, you have to take my daughter to the Halloween dance. That's the main requirement. And if you continue to date her, you can expect good money coming your way. At this moment, I was in shock. Because think about it. This guy was basically going to pay me like $1,000 a week just to date his own daughter. At that moment, I ended up saying, okay, yeah, sure, I can do that. No problem. So who's the girl? Oh, well, you see, this is a photo of her. And when he handed me the photo, I realized it was the exact same girl that I turned down earlier that day. At that moment, I looked at him and said, this is your daughter? I'm not going to lie to you, sir. I kind of turned her down earlier, but I can make it happen. I can go back and tell her I'm down. He ended up looking at me kind of angry, and he shut the briefcase as fast as he could, and he said, my daughter better be getting a date from you, or you won't get this cash until she tells me you're going to take her. Okay, yeah, no, I can make it happen. And then one thing led to another. I ended up getting out of the limousine, and when I got out, some of my buddies were still hanging out in front of the school, and they were looking at me questioning what in the world was I doing coming out of a limousine. I remember the next day, I ended up going to school, and I made sure to find the girl that ended up asking me the day before to go to the Halloween dance. And when I finally saw the girl in the hallway, I ended up running up to her saying, hey, can I talk to you for a second? What do you want, Bubba? Oh, I just need to talk to you just for a quick minute. I ended up pulling her aside, and I said to her, listen, I really thought it through, and honestly, I felt bad for what I did yesterday, and I'm gonna be honest, is it cool if I actually take you to the Halloween dance? At this moment, this girl looks at me, and she looks at me up and down and says, what's changing your mind? What do you mean? I mean, what changed your mind, Bubba? Like, there's no way you just automatically decide to go out with me. I'm not that type of girl. Well, I don't know, I just felt bad. So you're gonna go on a date with me out of pity? No, it's not like that. I just, wanted to go out with you. What? And at that moment, I ended up making up some sob story about how, like, I ended up finding out she was actually really cute and how I felt bad, but I was interested in her and I didn't know what to say and I got nervous. She ended up believing all of it, surprisingly, and well, one thing led to another. I ended up actually taking her out to the Halloween dance. 2 weeks later, I ended up finally going to the Halloween dance with her, and I'm not joking, I was so happy. Knowing that I was gonna get paid for literally taking a chick to the Halloween dance was insane. And I remember during the Halloween dance, everything was pretty good. I went as a cowboy, she went as a cowgirl, and me and her, we ended up dancing and having a good time. The only thing that was kind of funny was when I went to the punch bowl where everyone was like, drinking juice at, since, you can't have alcohol in school. I remember one of my buddies ended up walking up to me saying, yo, bro, I thought I told you not to go out with that chick. Why'd you go out with her? Let's just say I got convinced, is what I told him. And he ended up basically smiling and laughing when he walked away. But I think the worst part was when all of it was over. The Halloween dance finished, everything was done. I finally ended up driving her home, and when I dropped her off, she ended up looking at me saying, Bubba, I had a lot of fun. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. I can't wait to see you again. Wait, really? You mean it? Yeah, of course, is what I said to her. And well, when she went inside, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing the garage door open. And when the garage door opened, I ended up seeing a really fancy car, and the guy in the suit that originally asked me to take his daughter out ended up coming out of there. He came out and said, Bubba, here, let me hand this to you. He ended up opening his wallet in front of me, and he ended up giving me $1,000. But sadly, right as he handed the cash to me, out of nowhere, his daughter ends up looking at me through the window of her front doorstep, and she ended up coming out saying, Dad, what are you doing talking to him? I said, like, he's a good boy. And as she was storming up to us, she saw that he was handing me money, and she automatically put two and two together. She looked at both of us and said, wait, are you kidding me? You're paying this guy to take me out? I knew it was too good to be true. I'm done with you. I hate you. And this girl ended up running inside. Honestly, I felt really bad, but at the same time, I took my cash and left. I really did not care, nor could I care less. And to be fair, the girl was mid. I don't know. What would you guys do in this situation? Because if you guys would date a girl for $1,000, fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. Okay, so one thing you guys should know about me is that I'm not really one for gang affiliation. Like, don't get me wrong, I get it out there. There's actual gangsters that are willing to die, for a brother or another. But for me specifically, I'm not gonna lie to you. If there's such thing as gangs out there, I'd rather not be a part of one. Because me being in a gang is like me basically spitting in God's face, asking for forgiveness at the same time. It's just super bizarre to me. Because like, you're loving someone so much, but yet it's just such a dangerous thing to be in. But at the same time, the one thing I will say is that today's story does get insane because, well, let's just say I was almost a part of a gang affiliation, and basically, let's just say dating a mafia boss's daughter isn't easy. But let's just get straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So today's story is honestly a quick one because honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I knew what I was getting myself into and had to jump out of it instantly. But honestly, the story starts off back when I was in high school. You see, back in high school, I was just a basic kid that literally did whatever walked. walked. You know, if it was walking, I'm going to do the devil's tango with it. And I remember one time there was a new girl in our school who recently just joined in, except a lot of people did not want to be around this girl for some reason. And I remember I walked up to one of the girls that I already was like good friends with, and yes, I did do the devil's tango with her as well. And I asked her the basic common question of, why don't you like this girl? I remember she looked at me and she told me, oh, like apparently like she's like really gangstery, and like I don't know, like she says she could kill all of us with like one phone call. I had no idea what this meant. I guess like calling the police in my mind was the first thing I was thinking about, because who else could you call to kill people? I have no idea. And in my mind, I'm gonna be honest here, the only time I heard about gangsters was literally in probably Grand Theft Auto. Other than that, if it wasn't from GTA, well then I don't know who else is she gonna call other than the Green Gang. So I remember basically I decided that it would be smart for me to maybe walk up to her and have a conversation with her. Either I just walk up to her and, you know, try to pull some riz, or I just say hello and realize that this was a mistake and just basically walk away. Anyways, the whole point is I want to go talk to this girl. All right, so that's what I did. I remember I ended up walking around the school with one of my buddies to basically find who this girl was, and honestly, she stuck out like a sore thumb. In a crowd of people, like anyone could really notice her, because I remember when I looked into this crowd of people that was literally in like the foyer of our school where everyone was surrounded before school started, she was definitely sticking out because she was wearing this outfit that like made her seem super odd. Like it was such a girly girl outfit, but at the same time, everything she was wearing was more expensive than my, well, entire outfit. Like no joke, including my backpack and the textbooks in it. It was super weird and I found it super funny. So I remember I decided to walk up to her, and when I did, I remember she saw me and she looked the other way. Now this is the one time I'm actually gonna say this. This is the one girl that I've seen actually not interested in me. As a guy who actually like, you know, goes around and, you know, basically does the devil's tango with almost every chick, this one girl was just not interested in me whatsoever. So I remember I did the same thing, because once a girl shows no interest to you, you show the same thing back. You show no interest. And since this girl was always begging for attention apparently from a bunch of other guys wanting her, I remember one time I ended up basically sitting in the cafeteria, and when she walked in, a bunch of guys decided to stand up and go say hello to her. As for me, I sat there and I basically ignored her. I remember she saw me and she looked at me and she knew that one time I was going to approach her, but I didn't because I walked away, right? Because she didn't want my attention. But this time when I was in the cafeteria, I decided to not even, you know, notice she was there. So what did she end up doing? Well, since I made the alpha male move of not going towards my prey and waiting for her to come to me, I basically waited and she did exactly that. She walked up to me saying, oh, like, hey, like, I never got your name. What was it again? And that's when I introduced myself and decided to pull my prey in. That sounded so bad since I'm talking about high school, but to be honest, like, in a way, it was a part of the method, okay? That's all I'm saying. Going on from there, though, I remember I was basically just talking to, like, you know, this girl as she was literally right in front of me, and there was, like a bunch of guys surrounding her as well, so it made the conversation more awkward. But I remember I just basically told her some basic things about myself, like, I drove a car, I'm handsome, I actually make money on, like, the buffoons behind you. Like, I said all the basic stuff that, you know, she basically wanted to hear and what most women want to hear. Because let's be real here, if you walk up to a girl and say, yeah, I play video games for 8 hours a day, make videos on it, and basically just sit and jerk off, there's no way, and I mean no way, she's gonna be interested in you. So I just told her what she wanted to hear, and she ended up liking me, and one thing led to another. She ended up wanting to hang out after school. After the first day of me hanging out with this girl, she wanted to hang out with me after school. I have no idea what magical powers I possessed, but let's just say the alpha male status that we're learning from Sneeko and Andrew Tate today are really showing me the ways of life. That sounds really bad because there's a lot of beef between Moist Critical and Sneeko that I really want to talk about, but we'll save that for another video. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically I ended up meeting up with this girl after school, and we ended up talking to her and ended up being really nice to her actually. Me and her, we actually really got along as we were just, you know, in my car driving around and basically doing the same thing over and over again. Because I was driving laps around the block that I was living on because I didn't really want to bring her home, to be honest. Because I knew my parents were not going to be happy with this kind of girl because, you know, she was one of those girls that basically thinks they earned everything or deserved everything. So I remember I ended up telling her, oh, like, what house do you live in? I remember I ended up typing down her address to just basically take her home because there was no way I was going to bring this girl home and do the devil's tango. And I remember when I ended up basically putting down her address, I realized that she lived in a nice area of our neighborhood, and she lived in like the hills basically, as we call it down here in Vancouver. And me knowing this, I was actually very surprised. So what I decided to do was I basically ended up driving her home, and when I got to her place, I saw she lived in an awesome mega mansion. Like no joke, she lived in like one of those giant houses that have so much space to the point where you don't even know what to do with it. So I remember I ended up basically parking my car in her driveway, and me, as I'm like, you know, just telling her to like basically get the hell out of my car, I'm actually like terrified of you because you're so rich. She ended up looking at me saying, oh, like, do you want to like come inside? Sure, is what I ended up telling her. So I ended up basically getting out of my car, and I ended up basically walking into her house with her. When we walked in, I realized that there were some people at the door, basically kind of like looking kind of sketchy, looking at her and basically looking at me as if they wanted to literally beat me to a pulp. But luckily this girl was there to be like my lord and savior, and she basically just let let me pass through. And me and her, we were basically walking around the house and she was showing me around. And one thing I realized that there was a lot of this one certain symbol that I don't know how to draw it for you. I don't remember it to this day, but I remember there was a symbol that was like basically around the house that I realized in like most paintings as well. I didn't ask about it because I didn't know what it was. But then afterwards, 2 minutes later, I remember as this girl was like showing me like her bedroom almost, or getting to her bedroom, out of nowhere, I see this guy in a white suit, kind of fat, you know, kind of overweight, look at me and say, "Hey, who are you?" And he had like this really like heavy like Russian accent. I didn't know what to say. So I remember I turned around and said, "Oh, hi, like my name is Bubba." I ended up shaking his hand and he looked at me saying, "What are you doing here?" I ended up looking at him and I told him like basically how like, you know, I'm friends with his daughter at school and like, you know, I am nothing special. I am just a friend is basically what I was trying to get across to him. I remember he looked at me and started chuckling and then he shook my hand. And when he shook my hand, I remember I saw this same symbol tattooed on his wrist. And then that's when I knew this guy is some kind of boss, ringleader, cult leader, something that's going to basically get me killed. So I remember he ended up saying, "Okay, well, have fun now." And he ended up walking away. But as he walked away, two other like Mafia members basically ended up just walking up like, you know, behind him and looking at me, staring at me like they were going to literally beat me to a pulp. I can't express that enough. I was actually terrified. So I remember I was standing there thinking, okay, well, I'm just gonna go into her bedroom. And that's what I did. I went into a bedroom and me and her, we kind of got cuddly together. And we started watching a movie on this giant TV that she had in her room. And I look at her and say, "So like, what does your dad do for work?" Because I was genuinely curious. And apparently she told me, "Oh, like, I don't know. I can't really like talk about it because like, I don't know. Apparently the government's after him today. Like, I don't know. It's some weird stuff. The government's after him is what I said afterwards. Yeah. The government, if you're listening, reminder, this was like 5 to 6 years ago. So if you're already like coming after my door to basically figure out who they are, I'm telling you right now, I have no idea where they went." But going on, I remember basically from there, I ended up, you know, basically cuddling with her still. And we ended up doing the devil's tango. But right after, I remember out of nowhere, I heard the door knock, but it wasn't like a normal knock. Like your mom's going to walk in and give you cookies. It was one of those knocks where like basically like it was like someone's going to kill you kind of knock. So me being terrified, I remember I ended up trying to put on my clothes as fast as I can, but she couldn't put on her clothes fast enough because apparently she was slow as balls. So she ended up telling me to basically jump out the window. So that's what I did. I jumped out the window and ran towards my car, but I realized that my car was surrounded by men that were basically going to kill me if I ran towards my car, almost basically not wearing anything. So what I decided to do was I basically ended up calling my dad to come pick me up, and I left her car there and told her to drive her to my school tomorrow. And that's what she ended up doing. She drove my car to basically school the next day. And she asked me why did I just go inside the car, and I told her how there was men surrounding the car. And then yeah, one thing led to another. I basically friend zoned her. To this day, sometimes she does message me, but I don't know. I'm not really one for the Mafia. And if you're watching this, I'm sorry. It's just not for me. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for today's story. Make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just look for more embarrassing stories. All right, peace out, guys.